What if the future of leadership isn't about who can process information the fastest, but about who can frame the problem no machine will ever be able to see? What if the entire arms race for AI-driven decision-making is missing the human part that makes decisions actually work? Today's guest is going to argue that, and he brings recipes from the highest stakes rooms in the country. Hi, I'm Gino Degregori, and welcome to the Kind Leader Podcast. My guest today is Adrian Wolfberg, an organizational change consultant, author, and thought leader who has spent his career inside some of the highest stakes environments in the country. He is a published voice on leadership and change management in the defense and intelligence community, and he brings a rare combination of quantitative rigor and deep human insight to his work. His current book takes one of the most important leadership questions of the moment: how humans and AI can collaborate in decision-making without leaders losing the uniquely human qualities that make their leadership matter in the first place. And that is one of the reasons that what drew me to Adrian and to have this conversation, go deep into that, those thought processes. And so, Adrian, welcome to the Kind Leader Podcast.
Thank you very much, Gino.
And now that I've shared a little bit about you and your background, I would love to hear in your own words, who are you and what drives you?
Yeah. Well, I spent a lot of years dealing with incomplete and uncertain information as a naval officer and later as an intelligence analyst. And it was always interesting to me how this process of creating knowledge under uncertainty then is constructed and then communicated to someone who has to make a decision and either considers or doesn't consider the input and takes action or doesn't take action. And because these situations have been in very, very high stakes environment that I've been involved with, talking with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, for example, on a one-on-one during an operation, or communicating with a foreign president about aligning their policies with the U.S. government's policies. So just, very real situations at the highest level. And I've always been intrigued by that. Obviously, I was doing it, but then later, kind of midway through my career, I wanted to get a better understanding from a kind of a scholarly or academic perspective. And so I got a PhD and focused in management and focused on this topic of knowledge creation, the transmission of information, and the receptivity of it by people who are receiving it and make a decision or not based on it. So I've done this not only Gino in the national security arena, but also but I've also done this in studies of law enforcement, business, and healthcare, and some others. So I found that no matter what people are doing, what lives they live in, there's these common factors dealing with decision making and so forth, which we can talk a number of these things later, especially when it comes to important decisions under uncertainty that require judgment.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations. Thank you very much for being here again and for an amazing career and supporting, our country in the national security. I know it's been, and we do a lot of that stuff, with my company. We support a lot of the intelligence community and DoD as well. And we know exactly what you mean when it talks about the mission and having to have the right information, the right technology to get the mission forward. So, but before we dive into and unpack a lot of this, your background and your book, the first question I love asking my guests is, what does being a kind leader mean to you?
Yeah, so I had a chance to look at your website and to look at this, your CARES principle, which I found very complete
Mm,
and a very disciplined way to talk about kindness, because just the word kindness is kind of, it's people have a lot of different meanings to it.
right.
And so we may have a very personal sense of what it means, to be kind in our relationships and our family and so forth. But I think your CARES principle provides a more disciplined approach to think about it in the organizational context,
Hmm.
in the work environment. So what I'd like to do is just kind of quickly go through the 5 core
Yep,
principles and how my thinking connects with them. So
I
that's what
love
I'll
that.
do if that's okay. Yeah.
That's great. I'm actually
Okay.
intrigued. I'm curious of what you think.
Okay. Excuse me. So the first one, the CARES, CARES, the C stands for clarity, um, which is basically understanding yourself before you lead others. So this is a really important issue in the age of AI, not only for kind of knowing your values and your blind spots and what triggers you, and how you see yourself versus how
Mhm.
other people see you. Those, of course, are um, constant, no matter what, whether it's in the age of AI or not. But in the age of AI, um, there's this natural, or yeah, I guess natural tendency for AI to make things feel clearer to the leader than they really are. So the danger in the age of AI is that it gives what I call leaders, no matter what level
Yeah.
they are at or what experience level they have, is what I call borrowed clarity. So
Mm,
this is the feeling of certainty before the person has actually done the work,
mhm,
the mental, whether it's psychological or interactional with other people around them, to um, to actually have a deep understanding about what is going on.
right.
So that deep understanding is what I would call earned clarity.
Okay.
So in the age of AI, man, borrowed clarity is, we've already seen this,
Yeah.
is going to become more of a constant. And, for the leader who lacks self-awareness, may use AI output, to reinforce their preferred view rather than challenging it. Of course, that's always been an issue even prior to AI. But what I'm suggesting is, in the age of AI, this becomes even more critical to fight against.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so the next one, CARES, CARES. The A is accountability,
Right.
and this is, holding the standard with care and not with fear. I think that's a really beautiful
Yeah. Thanks.
short way of expressing what accountability means. And so this is useful um, because it treats accountability not as punishment. And from a leadership perspective, um, that really does, the stick doesn't get you very far.
Doesn't. Yeah.
Care does. It's a powerful angle. And in the age of AI, you don't want to get into the age of blaming when
Mm,
something goes wrong. It should mean designing of clear responsibility before a decision is made in the age of AI. So things that would be important are um, understanding accountability from a human sense.
mhm,
So, okay, what does AI do? Well, it recommends, it can rank, it can summarize, it can predict, it can automate, but it doesn't own the decision.
right.
It doesn't monitor its own output. It doesn't challenge it, and it certainly doesn't answer for the consequences.
Right.
So this is where, if a team is using it, AI, or if they're over trusting it, or if they're hiding behind it, this becomes an important leadership competency and developmental effort, which I don't think we've addressed yet.
Not yet.
You know,
Yeah.
maybe people are starting to talk about it. I'm
Right.
certainly talking about it in here and in the book.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of competency and developmental need that's going to have to be worked on and
Absolutely.
considered. Okay, so that's accountability. Um, CARES, CAR. So the R stands for relationships, and that's um, you know, building trust before you need it.
Yep.
Now, of course, this is always important. It's always been important, but there is an important side, an important social side to AI adoption. And the reason why I wrote the book is because AI is just becoming ubiquitous. It is becoming integrated into certainly in work life
Yep. Yep.
more and more and more, and we can see this in the statistics and the data, and even in your personal life. It's becoming
Right.
more used. So anyway, so there is this real challenge with trust, and um, you know, AI is. I keep on hammering that it's not a tool. It's something uniquely different. And this unique, because it's a shared consciousness
Mm.
that humans have never had before, where there's now both human and machine sophisticated understanding and contribution in terms of collaborating knowledge
Right.
that has never existed before. So there's this issue of trust that comes, well, that's always been there between leaders and teams and functions and so
Right.
forth. But in the age of AI, this can change how people AI will, well, it is
Mm.
changing how people experience work. And so, like, an obvious thing is, am I going to be replaced by
Right.
AI?
Right.
Is my contribution, is my expertise still valued?
Mhm.
Is my judgment still trusted as opposed to what comes out of a machine,
Right.
like large language models, um, ChatGPT, Claude, etc. So, um, AI, adopting AI without trust is going to create resistance and fears, and will surface issues dealing with compliance. So
Definitely.
this kind of human AI collaboration
Mhm.
really depends on human to human trust first.
Absolutely.
Okay,
By the way, I'm
so
not I'm not asking follow-up questions because I'm letting you flow with it. I really wanna
yeah,
continue.
yeah. Okay, so CARES, CARE, the E is empathy. So this is a really, really critical competency, especially in the age of AI. You frame it in a short sense, understanding before you direct. And that is
Mhm.
really, really important. Um, and so here, I think it's important to clarify that, like the word kind, empathy often has a personal
Yes.
meaning to it.
Yep.
But here we're not talking about it in this kind of personal sense of what some people could think of as softness, or
Right.
other people might think about it as a weakness or whatever. It's really about leadership, or anybody's capability to understand how others experience work, and how the decisions that come are affected by those people, those humans
Yep.
who have to live with that decision. So, like any new technology, AI is, as we know, becoming ubiquitous. And there's an excitement by leaders often more than maybe those who are not in a leadership capacity, because they see this excitement about the efficiency of what AI can do, which we know,
Yep.
the speed at which it can process information, pattern recognition, etc. But the humans, we who are not at the very top, um, are going to experience human things. This kind of is very similar to smartphone usage, but there is uniqueness to it in AI. There's
Yep.
certainly anxiety, which we see with smartphone usage, but also a potential loss of identity, a fear of replacement, as we talked about it, or a frustration
Right.
that our tacit knowledge, which we have difficulty vocalizing or writing, but yet we know may be ignored. So, um, yeah. So let me just go to the
Yeah.
last
The
one.
last one. And by the way, empathy.
Yeah.
Empathy is my favorite one. Like that's the one because it really is very. It's always been important to me, and it's really especially as you're talking about the AI piece. This is an amazing skill, right, or trait that you can really focus on and become a better leader. But anyways,
Yeah. I mean, there are so many examples of empathy in the sense that we're talking about it here. Um, in my next book, of how we don't understand, we have like this um, 60,000-foot level view
yeah.
about what should occur, but an absence of understanding how it actually work
Hmm.
by people who are actually doing the work.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, so service is the last one. Lead for others, not from power. So yeah, this is a really mature and sophisticated competency. I think it's probably one of the most difficult
Hmm.
to achieve because of the issue of control.
Yep.
And in organizations, well, and then we can even see this in terms of the history of humankind through tribal cultures and its evolution into hierarchy, how control is almost like a second nature to living in an organization.
Hmm.
And so this is really about what can leaders do to provide clarity, to provide protection, as in psychological safety, provide the kind of training that's needed, to provide the time
Hmm.
and the space. And we'll talk about that later, to learn, permission to question, which has
Right.
always been the case
Yep.
as an issue that's important, but here with the power of AI becomes more important. Um, yeah, so it's not about leadership. Is it this in this sense in this age of AI is going to have to be this competency of service is going to have to be really reinforced so that it's not about control, but about removing obstacles and developing people's judgment. Because in the age of AI, judgment is going to become the most important human competency for successful execution, and even from the very front end.
Oh yeah.
Forget about the back end
Right.
of the whole problem solving.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of how I thought
I
I
love.
would answer your question about kindness.
No, thank you very much. That's definitely a first, and I love the perspective and how you tie your angle onto the framework, right? So thank you very much for doing that, and I very much appreciate it. And I think you broke a record on how long to talk
Sorry
about
about that.
how do you describe a kind leader from your perspective. No, I love it. I love it because I almost feel not necessarily validated, but I feel like you understood it. It makes sense, right? Because I haven't gotten real feedback from the framework. I mean, I'm getting feedback internally, right? But now hearing it from you, Adrian, means a lot. So I appreciate the integration on how you describe from your perspective and in saying that this sounds like a solid kind of framework. So I'm going to continue to work on it and expand it and explain it to people. Hopefully it takes off. You never know. But it was a lot. I mean, I have a bunch of questions. Definitely want to make sure that we leave time for the other topics that we have. But one of the things that popped up when you were talking about relation, I'll just pick one thing, is the shared consciousness. That was an interesting. I never picked it up from that perspective. You say when we're doing now, when we're working with AI, that shared consciousness. I would love to learn a little bit more. What do you mean by that, and how is that? Is that a new way of doing things now? That's how we're going to have two brains, right? Our brain and then, right, the AI.
Yeah, absolutely. So this whole issue of awareness about what's going on
Mhm.
is what I'm really talking about, shared consciousness. Now, I don't think, well, for right now, there's different degrees of awareness about
Mhm.
what's going on in the world between the current machines and what we as humans, and even we as humans, of course, we vary to the degree that we are aware of what's going on.
Right.
Um, so one of the concrete things that I mean by this is understanding context. So there's a whole to unpack what context means. You know, context involves things like the history of things. It involves the um, stakeholders or the people who were involved and what their agendas, what their assumptions, what their biases are, what broader environmental issues. And I don't mean climate. I mean the broader um, issues like regulations or
Mm.
policies or laws or trends that are going on in the world at many different levels, whether it's globally, in your industry or so forth.
Right.
So this is like a n-dimensional sphere that plays into what's going on now and how we're aware of that. Because to do anything, you're going to make a decision, but if you don't understand what is really going on,
Right.
you're kind of going half blind. And right now, and I think for the foreseeable future, I think it will be that there's certainly an awareness from the machine about what's going on based on the information that it has access to.
Right.
So this is, for right
Um,
now, a lot of this is text,
yeah.
and it's also, some visual stuff
Right.
that's been provided to it. It's access to video recordings and so forth. But there's going to be, I think, always going to be a gap on the machine side in terms of its awareness for these human things, which I'm just kind of mentioned: history, people, interactions, politics, and blah blah blah, sort of things. But each of this knowledge that is coming is contributed from humans and machine will be part of the ingredients
Mm.
in our understanding, our recommendations, how to move forward, our decision making process, our reflection about how things are going. And of course, the amount of the contribution level of humans versus machine, will always kind of vary as the technology
Right.
moderates. But it is always going to be, it seems to me, this transformation, which I think is just as momentous as the transformation moving from an agricultural society to an industrial
Right.
society,
Right.
moving from an industrial society to an information age. This is now at the next level, the next step.
Intelligence age. Right.
So that's why I think that this shared consciousness is a thing,
Yeah.
and we maybe don't talk about it in that way yet.
Yeah.
And there are certain implications that we've kind of touched upon that leadership competencies are now going to have to be developed because of this.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah. No, that's good understanding on the human consciousness. I'm sorry, not human consciousness, the shared consciousness. But one thing, as you were saying, like from an AI perspective, there's a concept in your book about um, AI is extraordinary at working inside a frame, right? Someone has already built, but it cannot build the frame itself, right? So that's our job, right? That's what we need to do. That's what we're asking questions, and we give it the right information, right? But walk me through what you actually mean by framing a problem and why it matters more than most leaders realize.
Yeah. Well, framing a problem has always been there, but it is more important now than ever in the age of AI because of the role that AI is playing in this shared consciousness reality. So you can almost think about it as a an experienced person working with someone who's just come on the job, and they're a two-person team, and the experienced person has to be aware of how to develop the junior person or inexperienced person, and what is needed for the inexperienced person to become more experienced, to be a valuable contributor to the team effort. So that's like a concrete example of what I'm talking about, of a shared consciousness.
Mm,
Um, so framing is how this relates to shared consciousness. Framing is this term that means how we place what's important to us as we approach dealing with the problem. So what's important to us could be who it's going to impact, the resources that I have or would like,
hmm
the human capabilities that I have, the expertise levels or not, what's going on outside of me, could be competitors in the case of
Right.
business, could be adversaries in the case of uh, public safety and national security, um, could be time, how much time is available, um, other external constraints like
Right.
policies or laws. So one has to kind of put all this together, kind of like a ingredients in a menu in a
Right.
cookbook. How much of each piece is important to contribute to the whole, to the finished product, to the outcome or the objective of what I want. So if you're making bread or you're making pie or you're making some entree, there is um, in this, I'm making this a very simple case
Of
now.
course. Yeah, I get it.
In these cases, we know what the outcome looks like because we may have photographs.
Yeah.
We may have had a relative make this thing before,
Right.
but we still need to know what to consider to achieve this outcome.
Right.
And of course, if we don't know what the outcome is, or we're not 100% confident that we can reach the outcome, then there's a lot of uncertainty into which is up to the leader to decide how much of each piece to bring into bear to create the bigger picture, the framing.
Yeah.
In the literal sense, the framing as a movie director
Right.
or a
Right.
photographer uses to to decide what to include and what to exclude.
Right. Right.
And those are leadership decisions that humans have to make because of their organizational context. So that's I think my initial response to what is framing.
Got it. Got it. No, and I appreciate the explanation. And how does it's obviously as we're working with AI, right? We are the ones framing the question, framing this the solution we're trying to get, the interaction we're doing, right? But um, you said that AI can't do that. Will it ever be able to do that?
Well, I think the question is not will AI be able to do it. I'm sure it can.
Mhm.
The question is the framing it produces in line with our human understanding of context and our human understanding of the frame that we have?
Right.
That is the question. And that I don't think that will ever happen unless maybe we become, human machine
Cyborgs.
Borgs or something like that. But I think for the foreseeable future, um, it can definitely come up with a frame. That's not the question, though. Is it coming for the right frame for the issue of the problem that humans are facing?
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, there's so much, but thank you for providing that, and that gives me a good perspective as it relates to understand what you meant by the frame, and then what AI can and can do at this moment, and what we are also potentially thinking too, like how are we giving up? What are some of the things that we're giving up or not giving up per se? What are we giving to AI to do for us, right? As we're trying to move faster, as we're trying to, right? Because before AI, we had to do everything, right? We had to find the information, grab the information, or create whatever it is, right? And now it's helping us move faster, right? From your studies or just interaction as you're writing your book too, what are people quickly giving up more as they're trying to create these framing solutions?
Yeah, so this is really what you're talking about is the time trap.
Mm,
And this is becoming incredibly more important now in the age of AI because we know how fast AI can produce responses. And so what I mean by the time trap is AI can produce, we know this,
mhm,
AI can produce so quickly, but as humans, we obviously can't produce the information as quickly, but more importantly, we can't comprehend, absorb, and truly understand that information as it's coming at us so quickly.
mhm.
So it's not only the processing that we can't do. Of course, that was true with, well before AI when,
Yeah,
regular computers were around. But now it's the being trapped in not having enough time to on the front end and the back end. And on the front end, it's ensuring that this framing exercise
right.
takes precedence before AI is used. And certainly AI can be helpful in addressing certain questions that might be needed to be answered as part of the framing exercise, but not the framing itself.
Got it. Got it.
And on the back end, even more important, as everybody starts using AI in organizations, this cycle of speed will a become a kind of a default mechanism that we have to adjust to. And so it's going to be those leaders and organizations that are going to be successful are those that manage the time. And what I mean by that is slowing down
Mm,
on both the front end, on the frame building, and on the back end of understanding
yeah.
and reflecting on and questioning what comes out of AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and I agree with you 100%. And I think that's why one of the reasons I started talking about kind leadership just wasn't about um, making sure people understood what leading with empathy meant, but it's also create awareness of, especially with this, you said it right, the speed of AI, how things are moving so fast. Empathy is, and people, humans are, I don't want to say slow, but we need the time. We need
Yeah.
time to build the relationship, to build the connection, to build the understanding, right? We can't move as fast as the machines, and we'll never will, right? And you said it right, that the leaders who are going to be successful in the next decade and beyond are going to be the ones that are slowing things down, right? That are investing in the connection in the relationships. Because if we compete with AI, we're never going to get there, right? But if we frame it, navigate it, direct it, right, and make sure that our people and our team are feeling and have an environment where they can collaborate better and move things forward collectively, right, in the right direction, it creates so much great momentum, right? So,
Yeah, and just to add on one little thing, I think the leadership competency that needs to be developed is not only thinking about time, but it's being aware of when during the process, what level of time slowdown is needed and where time can be sped up. So
yeah.
that will be the leadership
Mm,
competency that we don't talk about yet, but that's will be needed to be developed.
what would you call that leadership? I don't know.
It's not time management, it's, I don't know. I'll have to
Yeah,
think about that.
yeah, you got me thinking 'cause, yeah, that is yeah, it is not time, it's not consciousness. It's not it's like, maybe we'll come up with something later. If I do, I'll call you back.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Oh, that's a
so
good one, yeah,
let's, go to the next segment just to watching time here. It's been a
sure,
great conversation, but let's go into the flip the mic. You said you had a question for me.
yeah. So, I know you like empathy, but I'm not gonna ask you a question about that. I'm gonna, because 'cause you'll know too much about that.
Right.
I'm gonna ask you about trust. And, you said that trust needs to be built. This is part of the care principle,
Yeah.
before you need it, which obviously sounds not controversial. So I would like to know from your perspective, what does that look like from a leader's ordinary day or weekly behavior, such that when a crisis occurs, that trust that has been um, developed can be of most use. So what does it look like on a day-to-day basis that
That's a great question, but thank you for asking that, and I think I gotta say that took me a while to understand, especially, starting with the clarity of who I am as a person, right? Um, I've always been a very trust first and then get burnt later, right? If the relationship wasn't there. And it took me a while, right? Because I don't know, call it, gullible, humble, whatever it was, right? I always felt like there was, humans are always look like I always felt look for the good of people. That was just my nature, right? And I never been like, oh no, they're going out to get me, or no, this negative. I always try to avoid the negative, right? But what it looks like on a day to day for me, right? And now that I'm understanding, trying to build the trust and connection with people, is being vulnerable, right? And not being fearful of because what I mean by vulnerable is people look at leaders. They look at whether you're C level, you're a manager, supervisor. Oh, those guys have the answer, right? Those guys or gals that they have the answer. And if you show them that I am not perfect, I don't have all the answers. Let's work together. I'll give you some ideas and direction, right? I'm here because I don't give up. I'm here because I believe in myself and I believe in the team that I have, and I'm going to continue to move forward, right? And that is what I kind of just pour my heart out at times, right? And be like, hey, I'm real. I don't play games. This is what and sometimes I'm so passionate that I've seen the other side that I've gone a little too passionate and I had to take it back. And I was like, I didn't mean to go that far, right? But that's what it looks like. I don't want to say it's all over the place, but it mainly is if you want someone to trust you, you have to show them that you are vulnerable and that you really care, right? Those are the two main criteria that I like to see in people, right? Because if, for the most part, some people give you what you're expected or you want them to see and they have a wall, and I can sense it. I feel that energy and I say, look, let's go out, let's go for a walk. Let's go outside. Let's really let me go deep, right? And sometimes, I've done it. Is like, let's go on. Like, I love doing guided meditation, so I was like, oh,
Mm.
let me get you into that mindfulness mode. It's like, what the heck is that? I've never done that, right? So that was a long way of answering your question, but it's just so many ways. But at the end of the day, it's really, if you want somebody to trust you, you have to be vulnerable. You have to put the walls down and show your true self and lead with that.
Yeah, I like your answers, and I feel like I'm, very similar in that same space that you're talking about.
Thank you for asking that. Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's go into the rapid fire questions. I got 3 for you before we do a closing question. One thing AI will never do as well as humans, no matter how good it gets.
Yeah, this issue of what context actually is. What is the presence, past, and future implications of context?
Nice. The most dangerous phrase in a leader's vocabulary right now.
Just trust it.
It'll work.
Yeah.
A leadership skill you didn't know you needed until this decade.
Well, I think I didn't conceptualize it like I have recently, but this issue of framing
Mm,
and the importance of framing that even before AI was
right.
important, but it's even more important now.
I like that. I like that. So somewhere out there, a leader is listening right now who's feeling the pressure of the moment, the speed, and need to get the tools, got to move fast, right? And quietly wondering if human is sorry, is quietly wondering if the human part of what they do still matters. What's the one truth you want to leave them with today?
Oh, is that a question for me?
That is a question, yes.
Um, that it's important for humans to bring the strengths that they have into this shared consciousness with machines. And those are empathy, critical thinking, creative thinking, and situational awareness. Those human features and judgment, of course, those 4 or 5 are always going to be important as we move on, and it will become more important the more the technology develops.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for that. Adrian, thank you very much for amazing conversation, a lot of wisdom. I love what you did at the beginning with the describing the kind leader within the framework and AI and combining all of that. Learned a lot about the framing, right? The context, right? That's really important as we navigate through this informational intelligent age, right? That we're going. And the world is changing fast. The world is changing fast, and new technologies, new ideas, things are popping up every day, right? So we cannot forget about the human side. We cannot forget on taking care of each other, slowing down, like you said, right? Slowing down to make sure that we are, understanding the environment, understanding the framework, or whatever it is that we're doing. So great conversation, sir. I really appreciate it. And for those, haven't read your book, definitely highly recommend that. Go check it out. And it sounds like you are working on a new book. Can't wait to see that as well. And if people want to look for you or reach out to you, where can they find you?
Well, they can do a Google search. That's one. The website is Organizational Insight Consulting. I'm on LinkedIn. So those are like 3 easy ways to reach me and find out more about me.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you very much again. And for those out there listening, we appreciate every time you listen to us. And if you felt like this conversation was valuable, please share and send it to others so we can continue to build this community, this tribe. And I'll leave you with: be kind, bring value, rise together. Have an amazing day, everybody.